It is a part of America that P.T. Barnum would have taken great interest in. Barnum was America's most famous promoter, and in recent years, his life has been getting a fresh look. 2 years ago, there was a movie starring Hugh Jackman. This year, a book called Barnum, An American Life. So we met the author and traveled to Barnum's historic museum to explore how Barnum defined his age and ours. The traveling circus that P.T. Barnum created is dead, but his mark on American culture lives on.
He's never gone out of the public mind.
Robert Wilson wrote the book Barnum, An American Life, published this summer. We met Wilson at the Barnum Museum in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where Barnum once served as mayor.
I think that people, whether they know a lot about Barnum or a little about Barnum, they understand that he has this iconic status in American history.
Phineas Taylor Barnum was born in 1810, during a period when the country was just establishing its place in the world.
The 19th century is a story of ordinary people spreading their wings. And Barnum helped people come out. He was somebody who was really pushing them to know the world better.
Barnum's first big step onto the stage was perhaps his most indefensible. He bought the right to exhibit a woman named Joyce Heth, who claims she was 161 years old and the former nursemaid of President George Washington.
He started out as a person who had conventional attitudes towards race for many Americans in the 1830s.
He started out as a person who put on display what he said was an 161-year-old slave.
Yeah, exactly.
In 1842, Barnum opened the American Museum on Broadway in Manhattan. The museum exhibited scientific instruments, modern appliances, waxworks, and exotic animals. There were also Barnum's human discoveries. Isaac Sprague, the living skeleton, the so-called Mammoth Lady, listed at 576 pounds, and the Fiji mermaid, advertised as the remains of a beautiful sea maiden, actually a monkey's body sewn onto a fish. Wilson says Barnum's career can be summed up in one word: humbug.
For him, humbug meant creating a stir about something, pumping something up to the extent that people would want to react to it, ideally by spending 25 cents and going to his museum and looking at it. But the second part of the definition for him was, if you're going to create a humbug and get people in there, you better give them more than their money's worth.
Kathleen Marr is the executive director of the Barnum Museum. Barnum was obsessed with the biggest things, the greatest shows, but also the smallest things.
The smallest, also a wonder unto itself.
That includes Barnum's most famous performer, Tom Thumb, a little person who Barnum found at age 5 and started exhibiting at 6. Thumb's staged wedding in 1863 was a sensation that helped distract the nation from the Civil War. So this outfit is 175 years old.
This is, yes, at the math, it goes back probably to about 1850. It's the Napoleon costume that Tom actually wore at his performances.
When you say performances, what is that? What do you mean?
He would sing, he would dance, he would joke. He actually had a cigar. He would even drink wine.
A 6-year-old.
It sounds absurd, but child stars have been around for a very long time.
Marr insists that Barnum is much more than just an exaggerated showman. He was a strong believer in freedom of speech. When the local newspaper wouldn't run his opinions, Barnum published his own and spent 2 months in jail after he was accused of libel.
I couldn't imagine what he would do with social media today. He's exhausting.
As Barnum spoke his mind, he filled his coffers. He may have been the first American to discover just how lucrative entertainment could be.
Barnum becomes one of the first, millionaires in the country. So he actually has this incredible nugget ring created. That is an engraving of his Iranistan mansion that he built in Bridgeport in 1847. Take your hand so you can feel the weight of this.
Oh, wow.
It is just a gold chunk. And it's just an enormous, ridiculous statement of wealth and achievement and everything.
Like its subject, Bob Wilson's book has been a magnet for attention. And that might be because of another entertainer and businessman turned politician.
I mean, I think I have this, if nothing else, to thank President Trump for.
Everybody wants to make that connection.
Yeah.
Is it right or not?
I mean, I think it's an interesting connection to make. I mean, they're both New York figures. Barnum was heavily into real estate. It must be said that Barnum's relationship with the truth was quite slippery.
Barnum wrote a book called The Art of Money Getting.
Yeah, exactly.
Wilson says that Barnum should be judged by the standards of his time and how he changed. He would go on to become an abolitionist, eventually running for the Connecticut state legislature in part so he could vote for the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery. His homes and museums burned 5 times, killing scores of animals. His elephants invariably died at an early age. He eventually became a major backer of the ASPCA after he created the circus.
He doesn't create the circus until his retirement.
In his 60s.
So he's in his 60s. And it's never called a circus, actually. It's always the greatest show on earth because it is so much more than what people think.
Barnum also set aside money to build the Bridgeport Scientific Society, today known as the Barnum Museum. He died at age 81 before it was finished.
This is the 3rd floor of the historic Barnum building.
In recent years, the museum has been badly damaged by a tornado and 2 hurricanes. Some are hoping the renewed interest in Barnum leads to a $25 million rebuild and a continued reassessment of his life.
Is your goal in this book to rehabilitate him?
I didn't start out with a goal. I mean, I was just interested in him as a character. But what I found was that I admired him.
Why did you come to admire him?
I think it's that business of his ability to change. I think if you're willing to sort of look deeper, look for the complications in his character, see the ways in which he changed, then, it's possible to see him in a new light.
The famous quote is, "There's a sucker born every minute."
Right.
There is no evidence to suggest P.T. Barnum ever said that. Right?
But he should be known for what? You told
Well, the museum says he should be known for the line, "The noblest art is that of making others happy."
Aww.
And that was his goal. But he changed as he aged, and it's very interesting reading this book and sort of re-exploring what he was and what he did.
Yeah,
Fascinating. We're like this
Thank you
today.
both so much.